2, 1.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday Set. In today's episode, researchers are on the hunt for dark matter, an engineer creates a smart bra that can detect cancer, and scientists want to inject tiny robots into your brain, yes you. But first, it was on this day in 1989 that the World Wide Web was first launched in the public domain by CERN scientist Tim Berners-Lee, changing humanity forever. Deep within the app, stretching over 27 kilometres, the world's most advanced particle accelerator is whirring back into action. Brought to you by the same people who smashed atoms together back in 2008, CERN is getting the band back together with the Large Hadron Collider. This time, they're on the hunt for particles so far unknown to scientists: dark matter. Rende Steerenberg is from the beams department at CERN, and he explains.
If you look to the sky in the evening, you see this 5% of what's out there, and the other 95% you don't see. And this is for us what we call the black matter. And we hope to be able to discover hints of the existence and how to look for it, also with the LHC.
This could be one of the biggest discoveries ever in physics. Researchers at CERN hope to produce dark matter particles by accelerating the inside of atoms close to the speed of light around the 27 kilometres long ring and then crashing them together. With the accelerator's big upgrade, researchers will be able to get an enormous amount of new data over the next 3 years. And scientists at CERN are also hoping to get confirmation of a new fifth force of nature.
I've been hunting for the fifth force for as long as I've been a particle physicist, and maybe this is the year.
That's physicist Dr. Harper.
This would upend the field. It would be the biggest discovery of the CERN LHC. I think the biggest discovery in particle physics since bigger than the Higgs.
It's fair to say the researchers are excited about what the new upgraded Large Hadron Collider could achieve. It could help them make discoveries that could lead to the greatest shift in our understanding of the universe inside Einstein's theories more than 100 years ago. The world's oldest person, Kane Tanaka, has died in Japan at the grand old age of 119. According to Guinness World Records, Tanaka became the world's oldest living person on January the 30th, 2019 at 116 years and 28 days old. She held the title for 3 years. Having exceeded the age of 110, Kane is part of an exclusive club. She's a supercentenarian. Researchers believe there are only around 300 to 450 living supercentenarians in the world, so making it this far is a pretty rare achievement. With her death, the world's oldest person is now Lucille Randon, a 118-year-old French nun. With this news, we wanted to find out a little more about the process of ageing and longevity. For this, we caught up with Dr. Morgan Levine, a Yale professor and leading expert on biology of aging. Starting from the top, what exactly is aging?
In my lab, we like to think of it from the perspective of complex systems. All the molecules and cells in our bodies need to be arranged in a very specific way for us to function the way that we think we should. And without that order and complexity, you wouldn't have life. And so the way I like to think about aging is that it's the divergence or change away from that kind of optimal state. So things become more disordered over time and thus become less functional over time. This can be very multifactorial, and a lot of things can kind of fail over time.
What determines how long a person can live for? Is it just lifestyle, or do genetics trump it all?
So there's actually been some debate recently on how much genetics plays a part in terms of our overall predicted lifespan and our aging process. And actually, the most recent evidence is that it actually plays a very small role in aging. So I think the most up-to-date estimates are that only about 10% of our lifespan is predicated on our genes, and that the remaining is due to our environment, our behaviors, and some probably small degree of just random chance. Now, that may not be the case for people with very extreme longevity. So being able to make it to 110 might actually be due a little bit more to genetics. But for the vast majority of people, how long we live is more up to us than up to our genes.
So if it's all down to lifestyle, what should we be doing?
Obviously, one of the main ones is don't smoke, but we also see that exercise seems to play an important role in promoting slower aging rates and increasing healthy life expectancy. Other things like diet seem to play a role, although it's less clear on exactly which kind of diet is the most optimal for promoting longevity. And then, of course, things like minimizing stress, getting good quality and quantity sleep, and also just staying engaged in your community.
How's aging and life expectancy changed over the years? Are we really living for that much longer?
For a long time, life expectancy in the population was increasing quite dramatically. Some of that initially was due to decreases in infant mortality. So this made it look like overall the median life expectancy in a population was increasing. But we were also seeing more people living to extreme old ages or even making it to the age of 100. However, there's some evidence recently that this might be reverting to some extent. So some demographers are actually showing that we might be getting some decreases, or at least maybe not increasing as fast in terms of our lengthening of life.
There have been recent studies that have reversed aging in skin cells and rejuvenated certain tissues. So how close are we to be able to reverse the aging process in humans?
So actually a number of my colleagues have shown, and actually in my lab as well, we've shown that you can reverse, quote, the aging features of cells in culture and to some extent cells and tissues in a mouse. This is not that difficult to do with cells in a dish. One is we need to figure out exactly what the right dosing would be. And this is probably going to depend to some degree on different cell types. So the type of dosing that you would want for skin cells might be different than what you would expect for liver cells. The other issue is delivery systems. So the systems that we use in mice actually won't be applicable for using in humans, and we have to develop safe delivery systems that can target specific cells or tissue types. So we're still a little ways off, but it's really exciting time to be working in this field.
What things can we do in our everyday life to increase that longevity and stave off aging?
The most important thing that people don't pay attention to is to actually assess how well that they're aging. So there are new ways that you can do this. Many of them are freely available, where you can actually, if you have a recent lab test from your doctor, these numbers can be combined to give you an overall kind of indicator of how well you're doing relative to what we would expect for someone of your chronological age. And I think for many people, this can be an early wake-up call. And so often people will wait till, they have a heart attack or get diagnosed with disease to really start evaluating their lifestyle. But this can actually give people insights much earlier and actually help people live longer, healthier lives.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, there's a mysterious global rise in hepatitis and the UK's Franken-Chicken problem. According to health officials, there's been a surge in severe hepatitis cases this month among young children. At least 169 have fallen ill since the beginning of April, most of them in the UK. While the cause is still uncertain and cases continue to rise, GP Dr. Nighat Arif joined BBC Breakfast and explained what signs to look out for.
So I'm going to break it down into really simple things. Hepatitis is just inflammation of the liver. Now, we know hepatitis exists and children do get hepatitis for various reasons. There are viruses that cause it. So there's A to E, so A, B, C, D, E, and they all have their different variations in how they represent in children. And then we also know that there are underlying genetic conditions that can cause hepatitis. And if we look at older adults, alcohol and some certain drugs can also cause hepatitis. So it's an inflammation of the liver. What happens is the signs that presents to the person is that you can get yellowing skin or yellowing of the eyes. You might get itchy skin as well. Your child might have dark urine and pale stools. They might complain of cramps or lots of fatigue. They might also complain of loss of appetite as well. And they might get these spiking temperatures, which we can't seem to get under grips with. Now, the cases that they've looked at so far with hepatitis is a form of adenovirus. And we think that about 70% of the cases and the data and the research that's coming through is there's a particular type of viruses. Now, adenovirus is a really common virus, Sally. We have hundreds of cases of adenovirus. But in some of the studies that we've done, particularly when they looked at the cases in Scotland, is that they found that there's an adenovirus 41 or AD41, which we think is causing this type of hepatitis. But that doesn't account for all of the cases. So looking out for the signs and symptoms is so important.
Here in the UK, we love our chicken. It's the nation's favourite meat. We consume 17,000 of them every 9 minutes. That adds up to more than 1 billion chickens plucked and processed every year. Typically, a whole chicken can feed a family for the price of a latte. On paper, that sounds like a great deal, but is it sustainable? What's the real cost of the chicken in our trolley?
It's a story about animal cruelty, essentially, on an industrial scale.
That's Hussain from the Humane League UK speaking with Euronews. Every year, millions of chickens are being selectively bred to grow dangerously large in order to maximise profit.
We're talking about chickens who have essentially been bred over decades to suffer. They grow 400% quicker than they did in the 1950s. They grow unnaturally fast, and this creates a whole host of health and welfare problems. It causes them to collapse under their own body weight, causes them to have painful leg conditions, red, raw, burnt skin from sitting in their own excrement, muscle diseases. What we're talking about is the equivalent of a human baby growing to an adult tiger weight in 2 months.
This is happening despite laws being in place to stop this kind of breeding.
Government have essentially acknowledged that these fast-growing breeds suffer.
Yet 90% of chickens are still farmed this way in the UK.
They've allowed this thing to happen. It's in place with these huge producers who are making lots of profit on it. And I think that they don't want to rock the boat, essentially, with this. And they're just hoping that no one's monitoring it, no one's watching it. And so they would just allow it to happen.
Now the Humane League is campaigning to stop the unlawful practice and put sufficient monitoring in place.
There is a set of standards called the Better Chicken Commitment, which ensures better welfare for chickens and ensures the use of slow-growing breeds. And hundreds of companies have already signed up to this, but lots of supermarkets and other companies are dragging their feet and essentially profiting off of this cruelty, while we have a law that says essentially it shouldn't happen. And while there is an alternative in the Better Chicken Commitment that companies have already signed up to. So there isn't really any reason for this to continue other than that it's being allowed to continue.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, a bra that detects cancer and special grass that could help climate change. Right after this.
You're listening to the Sunday 7. Follow us for your weekday news espresso, or even try our Ireland edition. It's in all the usual places. A smart bra device that can detect early breast cancer has been developed by an inventor in Nigeria. Breast cancer is the most common type of cancer amongst women in sub-Saharan Africa, with 129,000 new cases diagnosed in 2020. Only around half of women there live for more than 5 years after being diagnosed, with late diagnosis a major factor according to the World Health Organization. Set to enter the market by July 2022, engineer CouncilDr Bolarinwa, who developed the bra, hopes it'll be instrumental in addressing the barriers to early detection of the disease.
I believe that a smart bra device will make a huge difference in the detection of breast cancer, in the fight of breast cancer in Africa generally. Why? The first thing is the early detection. Early detection saves life. When women doesn't detect at early enough because they don't have all this thing available within their reach. They need to travel from one place to another. They need to travel miles before they could access all this technology that they use for the cancer detection. For example, the mammogram. We don't have mammogram machine everywhere. You can only find them in big town. So let's come to the women in the local communities. Not even local community, in the African community. Let me say that. So that kind of woman now have to travel miles to access this technology. So with this smart bra device that I've mentioned earlier, they will be able to access their result, get their result. So you don't even need to start traveling, thinking about how you're going to go travel. No, prepare yourself to travel to get the test done. So with the device, right at the comfort of your home, right in your home, you will be able to get your result check your status, and you know where you are, you know what to stand for. And after all, if you have any difficulty, if there's any abnormality detection, then you know how to proceed.
The smart bra was developed using ultrasound technology, and the chargeable battery-operated device comes with mobile and web apps that can display where a tumour is on the breasts. Not only does the bra bring care to areas that have been deprived of easy access to cancer screening, it's also incredibly cost-effective.
Average African woman or average African live below $5 per day. So that tells you how difficult it is. So with the smart bra device, they will be able to access that result without talking amount of money. We all know mammogram is expensive, despite the fact that it's not even within your reach. Ultrasound is also expensive. So the smart bra device will help women to check their status at a very low cost. We're still going to partner with governments for the deployment of the smart bra. I think health centers are the one closer to the people. It will be deployed to health centers with minimum of 50 smart bra will be there, where women can now come maybe once in a month to check their status. This has also been within their reach compared to the existing technologies. I believe the smart bra device will actually help in the prevention of breast cancer in Africa.
Sending miniature robots deep inside the human skull to treat brain disorders has long been the stuff of science fiction, but it could soon become reality if a Californian startup's to be believed.
What the micro-robotic technology, the Bionaut, does, it allows you to reach targets you were not able to reach, and reaching them repeatedly in the safest trajectory possible. For localized conditions such as cancer tumors, stroke, atherosclerotic plaque buildup, localized pain, and many other conditions, there is a real need to have a micro-robotic, precise, remote-controlled mechanism that can treat a condition only at a specific point and nowhere else.
The micro-robots can even be used to treat brain tumours. In this case, the bots will inject anti-cancer drugs into the tumours with targeted precision. The research team behind the bots also hope it can treat Dandy Walker syndrome, a rare brain malformation that causes fluid-filled cysts in children.
The Bionaut travels to the cyst, fenestrates it, makes a hole once, twice, multiple times, brought out, and the cyst deflates, meaning the pressure is restored directly at the place where the problem was created.
Bionaut Labs is planning to launch its first clinical trials in humans using the tiny injectable robots in just 2 years.
We have tested that on large animals, sheep and pig, and that data shows that the technology is safe for use. In fact, that data has been shared with the FDA, who have granted us 2 accelerated designations last year for the first 2 conditions we want to treat.
With concerns over climate change and increasing global temperatures, researchers believe growing a specific type of grass called giant miscanthus could cut warming by 1 degree Celsius. Growing up to 12 feet tall, researcher Dr. Yufeng hopes the grass can make a dent in the climate crisis.
Its effects on the coolings and increased precipitation is mainly due to its large leaf canopy, that can reflect more solar radiation, which is the main part that can cool the temperature, can further offset the future temperature rise, providing a better environment for the production of food and feed production.
Professor Xin-Zhong Liang, a researcher from the University of Maryland, is equally optimistic about the prospect.
They actually improve the climate in the other place, in all of the soybean, cotton, corn, these areas. That means they are increasing the total productivity of the heartland by 10 or more %.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.